I think there's a sense in which we could say that Jesus is in fact transgender. Here's why.
This is the best argument I've heard for this position, so let's talk about it. So the argument is that Jesus was a pure spiritual being and as a result had no biology, whether male or female, making him non-binary. Then Jesus transitioned from being non-binary to being male, and this would make him transgender. This is technically true, but also complicated, so stick around. So if the term non-binary is referring to someone whose gender identity is not exclusively male or female, and gender identity refers to one's internal sense of being male, female, or something else, then this cannot apply to Jesus because Jesus' gender identity has always been masculine by his very nature of being the eternal Son of the Father. However, that might not necessarily be the end of the conversation, though, because if we define non-binary as someone who does not fit into the binary biological or sex categories male and female, then it would be accurate to say that Jesus was non-binary based on that definition and then transitioned into being a male. But all of this is made complicated for two different reasons at least. Number one is that in the Old Testament, the New Testament, and in church history, God is depicted sometimes as a female or with feminine imagery. A second reason why all of this gets complicated is because if you hold to a more classical theistic approach to God, then you would say that the imagery and the analogies used for God in the Old Testament, the New Testament, and church history is just that. It's imagery, it's analogies, it's analogical language. We're trying to get somewhere in how we're understanding God, but we're not hitting the target with any of these terms, whether it's his love or him being male. The ways in which we speak about God are analogies and analogical language to try to help us understand and relate to this perfect being. So I would say as long as we have a discussion about the terms that we're using to describe God, what these terms mean and how they apply to God, then I think it's okay to say something like God is in some sense female or a mother or non-binary because, again, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and church history was very, very willing to describe God in a multitude of different ways just so that people could try to relate to him and understand him best. And that's really something that we should point out here. Human beings are encouraged to have a relationship with God, and so they need to be able to relate to him. And if this language helps, then let's do it.